Welcome back to the Norris Benchwarmers podcast. I'm your host, Colton Smith, here joined by producer Josh Northcutt, co-host Ben Miller, and director Garrett Jordan. Fellas, we're here for our regular podcast. We got a lot to talk about. We have a very, very special little special event, I guess you could call it, where we're going to be giving our top 10 NFL QB list. I gave that out on Friday. We've had the weekend to prepare for this. And if you guys saw our Ashton Genty, I don't know if this will come out before or after, but if you saw our Ashton Genty Travis Hunter, you might want to get into, I want to get some popcorn because we have 30 minutes on this thing, and it'll be very interesting, but probably a little more civilized than that because I would run through a brick wall for Ashton Genty. Anyways, to start it off though, we're going to talk about some NKU sports. Let's start with the ladies first. Ben, you got some stuff?
Yes, sir, I do. So the NKU women's basketball team, they traveled up to Evansville, Indiana, taking on the Southern Indiana Screaming Eagles, losing 75 to 73, and they fall to 2-4 on the season. I mean, just going back to the first half, though, I mean, NKU, they kept it close, though, but on defense, though, they obviously couldn't even get any stops, but this Southern Indiana offense was absolutely rolling. I mean, they put up 18 they were up by 18 at one point in the game, but NKU, they were not going down without a fight, though. I mean, they were able to respond with three-pointers by J.C. Jones and Calissa Lacey. They were able to do some damage in the paints, getting those much-needed buckets, though, but they were able to cut the lead down to one, but unfortunately, they had a shot to win, though, but Morgan was unable to connect to hit the game-winning shot. But one thing I wanted to point out in this game, though, Southern Indiana had 15 points off turnovers and had 15 second chance points. So back to the turnovers, though, their defense, they definitely pressured NKU for sure. And I feel like in a way that was one of the differences in this game.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the box score here. Kamora Morgan, number 11, had 21 points. I noticed she has one of the nicest shots I've seen on an NKU women's basketball team since I've been here.
Right.
It's very pure, very nice. So glad she got some shots up there. But one thing I noticed from this team is that they just hang in there. You know, you said they were down 18, but they fought back. They have that fight in them, and that's going to be huge because there were a lot of games last year. This team definitely turned a corner at one point last season, but when they're in their lowest of the low, this hair is getting blown out, and being able to keep it close, that is huge. I mean, being a one shot away. They played Toledo, was it? Yeah, Toledo the week before. We talked about that last week, but they only lost that game by 3. So I obviously want to win games, but being able to stay in games, keep the games close is always huge, and not just calling it quits after being down a lot early. So shout out to them for that, and I'm excited to see they got Bradley coming up this week. That's on the road, but then they come home to Eastern Kentucky for a little doubleheader, which will be quite the thing to work this weekend. But big rivalry game. Eastern Kentucky. That was a big rivalry, I guess, in Division II or back in the olden days between Eastern and Northern. So always want to beat your in-state opponents. But let's talk about some men's basketball. They have, I'll go ahead and mention, the second half of the doubleheader on Saturday. They play against, why is the name, Bellarmine, which is another, I know that is a huge Division II rivalry between those two programs. A lot of times that was a win to get into the tournament or to get deep into the tournament. So it'll be interesting to see that kind of renewed. First time they've played in a while.
Yeah, for sure. You said men's team, right?
Yeah, we're moving the men's team.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously they lost 76 to 60 to UC last week. I feel like for the most part, though, they kept the game really close, though, especially like we all know who UC is, though. Defensively, though, they're ranked obviously 18th in the nation. But I feel like they played really well. After looking sluggish on offense against Nichols, after being down, I believe it was 21. But
give or take, yeah.
Yeah, and Sam Vinson, he showed up big with 16 points, though. But one of the things was at the beginning of the season, though, he was still trying to find his rhythm after sustaining that knee injury last week.
ACL,
not last week, last year, excuse me. But
Yeah, I mean, he showed up really big on the offense. He looked really good out there. And moving on to Kentucky State, they won
85-59, though. Another great game by Sam Vincent, though. I mean, he looked comfortable and confident, finished in transition, and he shot the three with confidence. And he also showed up with 4 steals, doing what he does best in the Horizon League. I mean, I feel like in a way, in these last 2 games, though, he's starting to develop, though, to the player that we all expect him to be, though. So, yeah, overall, though, I'm just really excited to see what Vincent can do moving forward.
Moving back to that Cincy game, I know, Josh, you have a little stake in this
I was
going to
say, so the NDA, can't tell you who I cheered for that game. But,
I can.
That being said, it was kind of one of those things. NKU kept it a lot closer than I expected. When we talked about the game, I said, I didn't think NKU had a chance. Talent won out. A lot of these times in these kind of games, talent always ends up winning out. But you mentioned Sam Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
I was very impressed with his play because I know in the beginning of the year you guys kind of mentioned early struggles, first few games, kind of get playing with that knee brace. You're a baller. That can't be easy. That just looks. I'm looking at him like that's a Stone Cold type knee brace.
Oh yeah, that's you sitting there like pulling on it, making sure it's tight.
Yeah, that's like something I see NFL players. I've never seen a basketball player wear it. So
actually, Maya Meredith on the women's team wears one too.
Okay, so my question with it was going to be, it's one got to be getting comfortable with it, right? Like just why maybe a slow start is, and then 2, do you think he just wears that the rest of the year, or do you think he finally gets comfortable enough and it's like the reason why, or maybe moves to a lighter brace because I'm assuming he came back maybe earlier than expected. Maybe people didn't expect him to be back already because he tore it in December, right?
December of last year.
So I mean that's. What I guess a year,
about 11 months, right?
11 months, yeah.
So yeah, that was just one thing that I saw was the knee brace stood out to me, but he played very impressive and talent won out. But that was a very good game from NKU, despite what the final score said, because it was just UC closed out. It was very close at half.
Yeah, and we had a certain player on our team decide he wanted to take like 3 threes in a row, and then since he scored on all those. But we won't get into that. We'll go ahead, wrap it up. But one thing I do want to mention is I was kind of saying Sam Vincent looks very stiff, very rigid coming back. Like he's still getting used to it. He proved me wrong on that. He's back. He looks a lot like the player we remember. And I'm sure there'll still be ups and downs, growing pains and whatnot. Like you said, that knee brace. I've never played with a knee brace to that extent. I had like a little like pad or whatnot, just like a little, I don't know what you would necessarily call it, but nothing too insane. And even that, you do notice a difference. It is, and especially with not having that with that knee, you're always worried about it coming back. So glad to see him looking a lot more comfortable on it those last 2 games, especially Kentucky State. He looked a lot more fluid, a lot better, like the Sam Vincent that we know. But let's go ahead and move along to, or you have something?
I do want to talk one thing. Also, big news on Friday in baseball world. I know you don't live in that world, but a big thing did happen.
Right.
The Kansas City Royals and Cincinnati Reds made a mini blockbuster trade. I wouldn't say it's huge blockbuster, but it is in this part of the country. Thank you. Words are hard. The Kansas City Royals traded pitcher Brady Singer to the Cincinnati Reds for infielders Joey Weimer and Jonathan India. This was one of those things that we've all kind of expected to happen. India, especially after calling out ownership, might have been on the wrong side of things. Matty McClain coming back plays a role in it. And the Reds just needing a guy who can eat innings. And Brady Singer can be that guy. I love this deal. I know a lot of people out there are not a fan of it because Jonathan India was such a likable guy.
Right.
I've tailgated with him at Bengal Jim's tailgate. He's been the not ruler of the jungle, but the leader of different events there. Was really loved around town. They liked how he played. During 2020, he had that Rookie of the Year. So it's one of those things where it does suck that he goes, but I do think the team got better on Friday. Garrett, your take?
I do really like this trade. We're getting a guy from Kansas City that was kind of like the third guy in that rotation sort of thing. He was behind Cole Reagans and Seth Lugo. And so, but he's very overlooked in that sense because of the success that Reagans and Lugo saw last season. I mean, I don't have the stats pulled up in front of me, but I know Singer had a really good season and was one of those key components in getting them or getting them as far as they did in the postseason. That being said, as it does suck to see a clubhouse personality like Jonathan India leave this team, as he is one of the more veteran presences on this team, and especially in that young infield. But as of right now, we have infield depth. I mean, we have plenty of young infielders raring and ready to play. So there's just too much traffic in the infield right now. I also kind of like throwing Joey Weimer in there as like a little additional piece, because I don't know if the Royals would have just done that straight up. Probably not. However, I think the Royals also got better in this trade, because Jonathan India and Bobby Witt Jr. up the middle in that Royals infield is going to be scary next year.
I definitely agree with that. It was a win-win for both teams. It was also one of those things, kind of like you mentioned. It was like Singer just needed a new start, and India needed a new start. They're both very, like, Singer is going to be a Cincinnati guy. I'm telling you, Cincinnati is going to end up loving him. And India has already been loved in Kansas City. I got a buddy who lives out there, and they're excited to get him. They're disappointed to see Singer go, because he was a really, really high draft pick. Never fully became what they wanted. But now the question becomes, do we think the Reds are done or not? And in my opinion, they're not. I think they're going to move an arm to get an outfield bat. I don't know which arm, but the rotation is very jam-packed now, with Singer having to be in it, Green obviously being in it, Abbott being in it, Martinez, you're paying $21 million. You're not letting that go to the pen, and then it'd either be Lodelo or Louder. And I've been hearing rumors that they would maybe start Louder down in the minors. I will lose my mind.
Yeah.
Louder is the best pitcher on that staff. I promise you right now, he will win Rookie of the Year next year. I guarantee it. I will go as far as saying that. Quickly, do you guys have any take on India before we move on? Or
Ben does.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, though, I was kind of going back and forth, though. Like, is this a bad trade or is this a good trade, though? But I feel like with our pitching from last year, though, with this guy coming in, what was his name? I'm sorry.
It's Brady Singer.
Brady Singer. Sorry.
You're
Brain
good.
fart. But, yeah, with Brady Singer coming in, though, like you mentioned earlier before the show, you said he was good.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he's a Brunson Arroyo type guy. He's going to be that veteran that we just tell Brady, hey, Brady, we need you to go out there and eat some innings, because we just our young guys couldn't handle it, or our young guys had a rough start. And Brady will be like, okay. I don't think he's thrown less than 175 innings the last 3 years, and that's what we need. We need an innings guy to help lead this team. So I'm a huge fan of it.
Yeah. I mean, though, with like pitching was one of our problems last year, though, but with him coming in, joining Hunter Green especially, though, that's the one thing that I'm looking forward to, though, because I feel like with him coming in, that's going to turn this pitching staff around, and I feel like we're going to be in good shape.
Fair enough. I'll go ahead and start winner circle, if that's okay.
Yep.
I'm just winner circle. I think I'm going to go with the University of Michigan. The Michigan University program flipped number 1 overall high school prospect Bryce Underwood from LSU to Michigan. It took a full team effort, starting with the likes of Dave Portnoy promising to fix the Michigan problem back in September. And then it took an honorable Marine like Connor Stallions getting a coaching job for Bryce.
There's no. There's no way you just said
that. And then
that.
it took the Michigan staff going full court pressure, showing to Bryce at games that we want there. So we went and we saw him. And then, of course, it was the NIL deal of those who stay home will be champions. And last but not least, it may or may not have took a Oracle billionaire, Larry Ellison's wife, Jolene Ellison, and the rumored $10.3 million donation to keep him home. But again, I mean, wearing blue is way better than wearing purple. And playing for Sharon Moore is way better than playing for Brian Kelly. You see how he treats his players? He yells at them on the sideline. Nobody wants that. You got to baby these kids nowadays. I love it. Hey, Garrett. Brian Kelly's going to be getting fired.
Saying that after having John Harbaugh as your coach last year is crazy.
John Harbaugh doesn't yell at his players like that.
Yeah, he doesn't yell like that for sure. But.
Yeah, but don't ever put Brian Kelly and John Harbaugh in the same sentence again, unless you want to get slapped.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, after seeing
Garrett, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
Just
it's not your
Josh's
fault.
winner circle proves to me that
It's
money
not
can
your
really
fault.
buy you anything.
Yeah,
not
it
your
can
fault.
buy me happiness. I promise you that.
It's not your fault.
I still can't believe the Connor Stallings line. That's
Honorable Marine.
crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy to me.
It's not your fault.
Let's move on. Next person.
I'll go ahead and take Saquon for obvious reasons because he may or may not be a part of my fantasy team. Sorry, Alex. 2 weeks in a row you lost to me in basketball and football, but 302 total yards, 2 touchdowns, 255 rush yards, the most rush yards since 2009, according to ESPN, unless that was proven differently. 9.8 rush average, or sorry, yards per carry. Give me Saquon. 43 fantasy points, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around that range, dude. I don't even know, but
46.
46. It is 46. I was thinking 43 points.
Fun fact: he's now third in MVP.
I was about to say,
It could potentially happen.
he's creeping up on that MVP.
Colt's out here trying to break the stereotypes that running backs matter.
Running backs matter. I have pit stains, but running backs matter.
All right, Ben.
All right, for myself, just like you, Colton, my winner circle is Saquon Barkley. I mean, after his performance last night, 255 rushing yards versus the Rams and putting up a total of 302. Man, this guy's on a roll.
Garrett.
I gotta go with famous Jameis here because he made a fan out of my sister. She listened to his pregame. She listened to his pregame interview. She watched him in the game, and she watched him postgame on the Prime postgame show, and she loved the guy. She loved his energy. He was great. I loved it. I think Jameis earned a lot of fans this weekend with his infectious attitude. And granted, the performance wasn't quite great, but just the attitude, man, it's just awesome.
I thought he had a solid performance.
Well, I'm looking at it. I was looking at the
Or maybe
stats.
I'm thinking of last week.
219 yards and 1 interception. So not the best
Snow
performance
game,
quarterback-wise.
pass yards
But
not
again,
gonna-
yeah, snow game. So he was joyous to play in the snow. That's great. I love that attitude from a football player.
Yeah, no, shout out to him. I mean, obviously, football fans love him, but I'm glad, like, you know, that just anybody can follow. You should show him you should show her the Sunday conversation.
I did.
Nice.
I absolutely showed her the Sunday conversation with Caleb Presley.
Nice.
She loved it.
All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Start talking about some college basketball. How much time do we have for this?
We're at the 17-minute mark.
17-minute mark. So that gives us about like what? So that's exactly 15?
Yeah, basically.
Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to go into a production thing. I just want to make sure before I go through, I know how much I have. So quite an interesting week. It was definitely kind of, like you said, it really starts this week with the Maui and whatnot, but I still think there were some interesting matchups here. Wisconsin has kind of emerged as, I think, is going to be a top 10 team throughout the year. But let's go ahead and start where the pain started for me. Well, actually, it started with Cincinnati and KU, but we talked about that a little bit. And then I went home after that game, tuned into the Marquette-Purdue game, and literally just watched the same game over again, where a team was sloppy with the ball, turned over the ball, and just was not ready for Marquette's intensity. And shout out to this Marquette team. They were ready. They were not ready for us last year in Maui. They were ready for us this year, and we just, I don't know. I think it kind of brought me back down to reality. I'm still sipping some Kool-Aid, but not as much as I was before. And there's going to be some growing pains for sure without Zach Edey being our one and only option. Trey Coffin-Wren doesn't have quite the size Zach Edey did, but yeah, that was the Purdue Marquette game. And then moving along.
Hold on. You got to put a little respect on Cam Jones' name real quick. Triple-double.
Yep.
17 points, 13 rebounds, 10 assists.
Yeah, I was just going through the scores for now.
Okay.
I did end up going on a Purdue spiel. But
Yeah. And then all 5 starters for Marquette scored at least 9 points or more, so it was a team effort. This Marquette team could be very scary come March.
Yeah, definitely.
And then Alabama beat Illinois 100-87 in a Elite Eight rematch. They played in the Elite Eight, or was it?
They played at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, they played at some. Or no, because Illinois lost to UConn. And UConn went on to play Alabama. That's my fault. Got my Elite Eight teams mixed up, but could have been a Final Four matchup, I suppose. And then if we go throughout the week, Baylor beats St. John's in double overtime, 99-98. Big win there for Baylor. As that would have been a very interesting game to watch. I wish I would have tuned into that.
Honestly, Jeremy Roach hit a buzzer-beating 3. And also to mention that Alabama-Illinois game, Mark Sears scored 0 points, and Alabama still won.
He's been struggling this year.
0 points, and Alabama still won.
How does that happen?
Yeah, you just have a very, very high octane offense like Alabama does. But Nebraska Creighton, very, very interesting game here. Nebraska kind of went into their well. They've always been like NKU, or not NKU, but Purdue's toughest when we had Zach Edey. They always shut down Zach Edey. They did the same to Ryan Kalkbrenner here and defeat Creighton 74-63. It was a very interesting game. I think really the backbreaker for Creighton was an injury to their guard Ashworth. And he's may or may not be back. He's getting that checked. But Nebraska slowed down Kalkbrenner. Kalkbrenner only had 4 points on the game, attempted 1 field goal. The rest of them came from the free throw line.
I was going to ask, so did you get to watch the game at
I
all?
watched the second half of the game.
How did that happen? Did they just not give him the ball? Did they double team him? Did he just keep passing it out?
I can't really explain to it. For whatever reason, Nebraska's defense is just very, and it's weird because it's a Fred Hoiberg defense who's a very offensive-minded coach typically, but he has changed his coaching styles, and Zach Edey would have his second worst game of the year against Nebraska. So it's something about their scheming. They're able to slow down that big man, not give him opportunities. And I think Kalkbrenner is the kind of guy who doesn't want to take opportunities that he doesn't know if he's going to make.
He played 39 minutes, though.
Yeah.
39 minutes. Creighton shot 33 from the field, 29% from 3. Huge win for Fred Hoiberg and Nebraska, who are trying to make the tournament for the first time back-to-back years since 92-93. So impressive win, big win when it comes March and when you're looking to fill out that bracket.
That's an on-the-road game in not in Lincoln, but in the other city that matters in there.
Omaha.
There's just 2 cities in Nebraska. I refuse to believe there's anything else. Haven't been through Nebraska, but somebody please prove me wrong. That was a big shocker game. And moving along through the week, though, also I will mention that Wisconsin beat UCF pretty handedly. UCF was a team that looked like they might have some stuff, but Wisconsin once again beat UCF. That would not be the last we heard from them this week, though. Moving along to Saturday, Purdue beat the crap out of Marshall, but doesn't matter. Marquette beat Georgia, and then we go to the Sunday game as I move away accidentally from there. That's where the upsets happen. This was definitely an interesting day. I wish I would have been more tuned into that. I had some other stuff going on, but Wisconsin, number 19, defeats Pitt 81-75. They improved to now 7-0, and then looking at the big game that I mentioned in the college football show, Kennesaw State at home upsets Rutgers. My question is, why did Rutgers accept the game on the road against Kennesaw State?
Right.
This had to be accepted before that coach and those players committed there. You know what I mean? It was like one of those things that was way before. It wasn't something that just popped up like 2 months ago. As you mentioned, 79-77, the first home win ever versus a ranked team for Kennesaw State, despite blowing a 44-26 lead at half. Dylan Harper was 21-3-9, and Ace Bailey 17-1. I couldn't believe that. I mind you, I didn't watch any of it. It was just kind of looking through this, but we talked about Rutgers being one of those sleeper teams, Sweet 16, Elite 8 come tournament time, and they can still be that. But boy, that Kennesaw State loss is not going to look good if they're fighting for a bubble spot.
Yeah, I mean, it's just absolutely crazy to see. Just looking back to the first quarter or the first half, 44-26, Kennesaw State. I mean, how does that happen when you have Dylan Harper, which I think is one of the most underrated guards in the country? Like, how does that happen? That's just absolutely mind-boggling to me. But I feel like when it comes tournament time, though, the committee's going to possibly look back on this game, and it's not going to look pretty for Rutgers.
Absolutely. And then another game to mention on Friday, Duke holds Arizona.
No, why did I not mention that?
To 55 points at home and a 69-55 win. Cooper Flag. And I promise you, I'm not a Cooper Flag fan. I promise you, I know I keep bringing him up every week, but the kid's impressive. Right. He is everything that they've hyped him up to be. Yeah. Very much well worth potential number 1 overall pick. 24-6-3 night. And Duke killer Caleb Love was 3 of 13 from the field, 1 of 9 from 3 for only 8 points. I don't know what's going on with Caleb right now. He just does not look right since that last game in March when he couldn't hit a shot and he talked all that crap. I thought this would be the get-right game. He's playing Duke. He always thrives versus Duke. It's what he's done. And it was not that. An impressive win by Duke.
That's what I told Ben the day after on the show or on the broadcast we did. I was like, Caleb Love, in fact, did not kill Duke whatsoever. It was funny because the only thing I remember of him from that game was he shot a 3, missed it, got the rebound back to him, and he shot it, and he finally made it. That's what it took for him to make his 1-3 of the game. So another game on Sunday, and then I'll definitely give it off to you guys. Number 66, Georgia. had 66 points, defeating St. John's, who had 63. That was number 22. Probably not 22 anymore. So Patino kind of burst on the scene, almost upset. Baylor should have probably won that game if it ended in regulation. But now they have dropped 2 games against 2 Power 5 opponents. And still a long season to go. They'll have plenty of opportunity to flip that narrative in conference play there in the Big East. But yeah, interesting loss here to Georgia, a team that I don't know really much about, I'll be honest.
Asa Newell, I think Asia Newell. Very impressive, though, freshman. Led the Bulldogs with 18 points. Ben, do you have any games to mention, or do we want to move on to this week and the craziness that is happening all throughout college basketball?
Yeah, before we get to that, though, I do have one game I want to highlight. So going back to number 11, Tennessee, taking on number 13, Baylor in the Bahamas Championship, with Tennessee winning 77-62. I mean, from the beginning of the tip, though, it was all volunteers. I mean, Chaz Lanier, he showed up big, putting up 25 points, 3 of 9 from the field, and 7 out of 8 from 3. I mean, Baylor only scored 20 points, going 9 out of 29 shooting. I mean, from the tip, though, Baylor was absolutely not ready. They looked sluggish on defense. Scott Drew had to call 2 timeouts in the first 4 minutes. Offense couldn't get anything going. They turned the ball over 9 times. But right now, guys, I'm really concerned with Baylor. I mean, inconsistent start to start out the year. I mean, they were dominated by 2 really talented teams. And coming into this year, though, I thought Baylor, just looking at their schedule, though, they were going to have the ability to compete with these teams. I mean, but they're not living up to those expectations whatsoever. I mean, they got blown out to Gonzaga, and they were dominated, like I mentioned before, to Tennessee. But overall, though, they have a lot of work to do if they're going to be a true contender in a really tough conference like the Big 12, though, because as of right now, I think UC, they're going to beat them.
I mean, I'd love that, obviously. But the one thing I will say, that was the day directly after they played St. John's in the double overtime game. That's a lot of basketball.
I mean, true.
It could have just been a tired team, kind of came out flat.
Yeah,
but
did Tennessee even play the day before then?
I think they would have had to.
They would have had to.
Yeah, because it's that tournament. Yeah. So
But
that would be the only thing. That's a lot of basketball.
Absolutely.
But you should not come out that flat. The fact that Drew had to call 2 timeouts in the first 4 or 5 minutes, that's nuts. But you know what? Since we mentioned tournaments,
let's talk about it this week.
What a week of tournament games. Holy cow.
That was me looking at the schedule here before we list them off. But today we have a pretty interesting game against 2 undefeated teams, Memphis and UConn. We also have number 4 Auburn, number 5 ISU. I will be tuned in from start to finish to that game. Very excited for that. And then we also have Dayton and UNC. You mentioned earlier that could be a scary game for UNC.
Dayton just seems like a team that could do something in March. They
always
are. I can't think of the old VCU head coach that is now the head coach there. I can't think of their head coach, but
when I think VCU, I think Shaka Smart.
I'll get his name real quickly. And then you also got Colorado versus Little Brother in that great tournament. I think UNC beats Dayton, and man, I can't wait to see how they match up versus either Auburn or Iowa State.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're not even mentioning the games that could potentially happen as the tournament goes through. Looking down here, we have number 7 Houston and number 8 Alabama, all offense versus all defense. Can't wait for that. Number 1 Kansas, number 12 Duke playing in Las Vegas. That'll be another huge game, always a big game. I have an interesting game against
Anthony Grant is the head coach I'm thinking of.
Okay, yeah.
Very good coach.
Number 23 Definitely. Texas A&M and Oregon should be an interesting one on TNT. Rutgers and Notre Dame could be an interesting one as well. Moving through here,
I got the battle
Texas
for
A&M goes on to play Creighton the next day.
Yeah, I got the battle for Atlantis. You got Louisville in Indiana, West Virginia, Gonzaga, Oklahoma, Providence, Davidson, Arizona. Like that's just. I mean, this is the week college basketball starts for me.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This is where I start getting excited that you get the little vacation from school and everything else, and then you get these full-on games. You mentioned Arkansas, Illinois already, right?
Yes.
And then NC State, Ole Miss, Purdue, BYU. There's so many games. It's so hard to keep track of. The whole Players Era Festival that's happening at the MGM, just loaded. It is college basketball galore.
I think you said it backwards on Thursday. It's Purdue, NC State.
Man, it's so hard to keep track of
It's,
what's
it's all over the place, man. It's all over the place. So it's just exciting. We didn't get them all, but if be sure to go look at. I'm using the Real app here. Look online. There's so much stuff. Even I was just looking at that, how that's all on Thanksgiving. There is going to be a war for the TV at Thanksgiving because I want to watch Purdue.
I'm going to be watching college basketball over the NFL.
Yeah.
The NFL are just 3 trash games.
Yeah,
So
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you there, Josh.
Games. So we are going to skip our trivia question today, and for the sake of time, as we are going to get into our QB top 10s. Now, first and foremost, how we're going to do this is we're going to go. For now, we're going to do honorable mentions. So I will say my honorable mentions, Josh, Ben, and then Garrett. So we'll go through that rotation. Nate, listen them off. We can have commentary a little bit about it. Try to keep it somewhat contained because we have time, but we also don't necessarily have time. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I will get it started off with my honorable mentions, Tua Tagovailoa and Russell Wilson. Really, those two could find themselves in the top 10 if not for just not really starting the beginning of the year. So I felt it appropriate to have those two there because if Russell Wilson has a full year with the success with the Steelers, I think he is a top 10 quarterback, but just not having the full season stats kind of took him out for me. I would also mention Kyler Murray was also kind of floating there as well.
for me, it was Kyler Murray and Matthew Stafford. Kyler Murray was my debate with my number 10, so I will say he was my number 11, and Matthew Stafford was my number 12. Garrett was a little surprised that I didn't have Matthew Stafford in my top 10, but just how I kind of had a feel. Yeah.
For myself, my 2 honorable mentions are Russell Wilson and Jordan Love. I mean, I was kind of going back and forth on should I put these guys in the top 10 because they're obviously 2 great quarterbacks, but I just feel like there were a couple guys that were maybe more deserving in the top 10. So just my opinion. So
Yeah, 2 things I'll go ahead and say right now. CJ Stroud is not in my top 10. His stats have been horrid this year, especially when you compare him to the other people on this list. Jordan Love's stats also look pretty bad when you compare him to the people on this list. They're 2 young quarterbacks, both in their second year of being a starter, so I'm not necessarily going to say they won't be here next year or even by the end of this year, but based on the stats I was looking at and just prior years, I didn't see fit for it. But Garrett, what do you got?
Yeah, guys, my 2 honorable mentions are going to be Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield. So I have Baker Mayfield in my honorable mentions because I think Baker's past obviously hasn't been great. He just needed to find a home, and I think he's found one in Tampa Bay. And I just need to see him continue the success that he's having this season. So that's why he's one of my honorable mentions. And then Kirk Cousins is another one that's just kind of been a model of consistency for me, but has never really been able to get over that hump sort of thing. So that's why I have him as my second honorable mention.
The interesting thing for me is Kirk was not even. I made a short list of 16. He did not make that short list. And then for Baker, I have him much higher.
Oh, really?
I have him. He was floating around my top 5 at times. So.
Wow.
I'm going to say, before we get into this top 10, I know he's going to be mad at me, but I'm going to just give this away already. When I rank top 10 quarterbacks, I am not ranking a quarterback that has not been in the league for at least 3 years. I don't think you can. I don't think you can judge a quarterback off a 1-year performance, off 2-year performance, because we've seen one really, really good CJ Stroud and we've seen one really, really bad CJ Stroud.
Just thinking. So
again, three years is usually my rule with a quarterback. I will put the asterisk. Brock Purdy was the debate of whether I could put him in or not.
I got him in
because that's my one debate on. Okay, we've seen a lot of him. I feel like he should be in debate of the top 10, and he would probably be in my debate of the top 10. But if you haven't played 3 years in the NFL, you are not on my list.
That's totally fair.
Yep.
I did have Jaden Daniels just to see where he ranks, and he definitely compares, but where he fell apart is I gave kind of a point system based on past seasons. He had 0 because he did not have any past seasons, so it kind of worked himself out. Anyways, but let's go ahead and get to number 10. You mentioned Brock Purdy. That is my number 10 quarterback. I think he has looked really great even without some of his weapons, and he has shown that he is more than just a game manager quarterback. I think he's separated himself from that of a Kirk Cousins from time to time, and we saw how rough that Niners team looked without him this week. I don't think this team has any success without him at quarterback.
Number 10 for me, like I said, it was the debate between 2 guys, and then my number 10 was Tua. He got the edge over Kyler Murray because his numbers are a little bit better. I will say Kyler obviously hasn't had the weapons that Tua has, but Tua, when he had those weapons and he's been healthy and he's not concussed, he looked like an MVP potential guy. Dolphins looked like an NFL Super Bowl contender.
Yep.
So for me, number 10 was Tua Tagovailoa. Blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
All right, so my number 10 is Kyler Murray. I mean, now that he's back. Now that he's back healthy, though, he's being the player that we're used to seeing. I mean, right now he's playing with great confidence. He was able to turn Arizona's season around. And, who would have thought, though, they're going to be in contention to possibly win the NFC West. I mean, overall, though, I feel like he's, after coming off that ACL injury, though, he's playing his best ball right now. So I have him listed at number 10.
I will say, I did not realize really how good he was.
Yeah.
I can honestly got to admit that. So since I looked up his stats, so since 2020, that the whole 4-year rule kind of thing, Kyler Murray has the 5th best percentage of completion passes. 5th best of all quarterbacks.
Yeah.
He's better than I thought. I'm done calling him a toddler. His name is Kyler Murray. I'm done.
Hey,
I might start crying. I never thought I'd see this day.
Go ahead, Garrett. Your 10.
All right, I think this might be our first controversial pick. Number 10 for me, I have Jalen Hurts as my number 10 quarterback.
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, that's pretty far off from what I have. I don't necessarily hate it. I kind of understand it. But what's your reason?
My reasoning is just simply that he's been there. I mean, is he a systems quarterback? Yes, but he works really well in that Philadelphia system, and he's the piece that they need. So, and he's been to a Super Bowl before, and I think with the pieces around him, he can correctly guide this team to another Super Bowl in the future.
Wait, so you're saying it's controversial that he's in the top 10?
I thought it was.
I had him in my top 5 at one point.
Really?
I'm going to
Okay.
say, no, he was one of the top 8 that I easily got in.
Oh,
and
okay.
no
Yeah,
debate.
he was pretty much
He was
locked
top 5
in
for me.
in the top 10 for me. So, yeah, no
Well, I guess
controversy
it's controversial for having him so low, I guess.
here.
Yeah, no,
pretty
I mean
much.
that I would agree. Yeah, I feel like that's a little low, but I can also see it because it is one of those things where he always a quarterback? Not exactly. His stats lining up to other people and whatnot.
Right.
Now he's obviously got the best running back in the planet with him, so I can see where you're talking about maybe being borderline 10, but I'll admit I've also got him a little bit higher. If you want to move to number 9.
I'll go ahead and move to number 9. That is where I have Matthew Stafford this year. He's had a rough go with with his wide receivers in and out of play, but all in all, he still looked great. He's definitely turned. We saw some flashes of, is he getting to that point where maybe the injuries are getting to him? He hasn't really had that this year. He still looked very consistent. He has those Matt Stafford throws of how did he get there? He just had one of those in double coverage last night. I still think this guy has some more fuel in the tank, and if this Rams defense is very young and very, very good already, so I think he could potentially make another Super Bowl run at some point in these next couple of years. But just looking at him based off his career in the last couple of years as well, he absolutely deserves to be on this list and maybe even higher on this list.
Fair enough. My number 9, and this is one I know I'm going to take heat for, is Dak Prescott.
Baby.
So I know that's a lot of heat, and that's a lot of there's no way. But Dak, I counted a bit too much of his past, and I will admit, obviously we haven't seen great Dak this year. But since 2020, he's second best in percentage passing out of quarterbacks, third best in yards, 8th best in touchdowns, and 5th best in QB rating. He is actually really good when you sit down and look at it. I think he's just got that smell of Dallas on him that we all don't want to give him credit for.
Yeah.
And I think when he finally leaves Dallas, possibly at the end of this year, and he goes somewhere new and maybe becomes the face of another franchise, probably in New York, it will be interesting to see how he looks and how he performs without a likes of a CD Lamb. But yes, I have Dak Prescott as number 9.
Regular season warrior.
Interesting. All right, so for my number 9, I got Justin Herbert. I mean, his leadership has increased under Jim Harbaugh. That's why the Chargers are serious contenders, though. I mean, he has one of the best arms, obviously, in the NFL. He likes to sling it down the field. But I feel like right now, with Jim Harbaugh as his head coach, I feel like he is playing some of the best football in his career right now.
Yeah. Garrett?
Number 9 for me is going to be a player that people have mentioned before, some of their honorables. Russell Wilson, I have at number 9. Yeah, a little bit of a homer pick because I'm a little bit biased towards his time with the Seahawks, so I get it. But he was really dominant in that 4 or 5 year run with the Seahawks. Obviously tapered off towards the end. Didn't work in Denver. I don't think the relationship was there between him and Peyton. Comes to Pittsburgh, and I think the relationship between him and Tomlin is a little bit better than it was.
A lot better.
A lot. Okay, Josh says a lot better. I'll go with that. A lot better of a relationship there. And I think Russell Wilson is going to be one of those like veteran guys that's not going to wow you, but he's going to keep this team above 500, which is exactly what Mike Tomlin does. But he's just an extension of Mike Tomlin's scheme almost, and I just think it's a really good fit for him. And I think Russell Wilson will end up getting these Steelers to the postseason.
Okay, so feeling out the picks so far, I think I definitely went a little more of this season, which is fine. I just find it funny because I was the one saying make sure you still bring up some of past seasons.
Yeah,
I think I definitely went more on maybe this season with mine, which is fine. We weren't going to always have the same one, but for number 8 for me, I'm taking Ben's pick at number 9, Justin Herbert. I think he is absolutely a top 5 to top 3 quarterback at his best. I think with the injuries last year, I kind of put him down a little bit, and still, at the beginning of the year, he was kind of taking a little bit to get back, but he's definitely playing some of the best football of his career right now. We'll see tonight for sure what he's looking like, but give him at number 8. I only see him getting higher on this list as years go on.
Number 8 for me, and this is maybe a hot take, is Baker Mayfield. I do think Baker Mayfield is a top 10 quarterback. I think he got out of Cleveland. First off, he got Cleveland to the playoffs. Like he did. Yeah. He's still putting up. Yeah, he's still putting up solid numbers with a beat up Mike Evans,
missing Chris Godwin.
Yeah, thank you, missing Chris Godwin. So very young.
What was that?
I saw something that says there's a very slight chance that Chris Godwin could be back this season.
Gee, I don't see that,
man.
It's very slight, but he could.
They would have to make the playoffs, though, wouldn't they? For them to even like want to.
No, they're saying he could be back like week 17 or week 18.
Right, but if he comes back week 17 or 18, and like if he could do that, and they're not even in playoff contention, why do that?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's a very slight chance. It depends on what the Buccaneers do. But
they look pretty good this week.
Yes, they did. They're finally running the ball too. Good job handing the ball to Bucky. But yeah, so that is my thing. I do think Baker. I think he's a good quarterback, and I still. Like, there's nothing more, if you ask me right now, like, if the Bengals can't win a Super Bowl, I'd love for the Buccaneers to win a Super Bowl just so I could laugh at the Browns even harder.
That's a good point.
Great point.
All right, so my number 8 player is Jaden Daniels. I mean, he's having an impressive year, obviously, though. I mean, he's up there to possibly win Offensive Rookie of the Year, though. I mean, he's out there playing like a veteran, and this is only his first year in the league. He has the ability to make explosive plays late. I mean, we saw it against the Bears, and we even saw it yesterday against the Dallas Cowboys. He has great leadership under Dan Quinn, though. I could have ranked him a little bit higher, though, but just because of the slump the Commanders are in as of right now, losing 3 in a row, I feel like right now I got him at number 8, though. And I compare him to Lamar Jackson a lot, though. The ability for him to use his legs to extend plays. Jaden Daniels at number 8.
I'm going to say my only complaint with it is kind of what we talked about beforehand. I don't know if he's the best quarterback right now in the class because what Bo Nix is doing.
If you put Jaden Daniels at 8, you should put Bo Nix at 7.
I don't know if I can go that far yet. My bad. It's fair though. It's also just another thing where, like I said, I have a hard time putting rookies in discussion or putting even second-year players because what CJ Stroud is real because CJ Stroud again, or which Jordan Love's real because he's looked like a MVP
Jordan
candidate.
Love, CJ Stroud would have been in my top 10 if they played like they did last year.
Correct, right. and they're not there now.
They're doing quite the opposite.
That's where I don't think there's enough games, but also I don't hate the Jaden Daniels pick. He is potentially Rookie of the Year, and he was up there in MVP discussion. Garrett?
Yeah. No, I actually piggybacking off of what Ben said, I actually like that comp, honestly. Jaden Daniels comparison to Lamar Jackson. I think they're very similar.
Lamar Jackson, but a better thrower.
Yeah, I think they're very similar in their play style, and I think Jaden Daniels may have the slightly better arm. I think Lamar Jackson's catching up for sure. But my 8th pick is one that's already been said a couple times. I'm going Matthew Stafford here. Got that Super Bowl win with the Rams in 21. Have to bring it up. But I think what really hampered him is being the quarterback for the Lions for like 8 years in the beginning of his career. I think if he was on a large majority of other teams, he would have seen more success. And so that's kind of why I have him ranked so low. But he was individually a really good player on those Detroit Lions teams. So that's why I have him at 8.
Well, at number 7, I have I can't read apparently. I got Jalen Hurts at number 7, and I don't think it's even a question of whether he's a system QB or not. I don't think he's a system QB. He's got great weapons. Don't get me wrong. Saquon has been an outstanding little dump off pass weapon for him. Like, oh, we got nothing else going on. Dump it to Saquon, see what he can do. But yeah, I think Jalen Hurts is absolutely fair to be in the top 10. I didn't realize that was a question, and absolutely number 7.
That's our first disagreement.
Really?
I view him as a systems quarterback.
Why?
Do
you view Brock Purdy as a system quarterback?
Yes.
I do.
Okay.
I hate saying it, but I do.
Anybody who plays quarterback for Kyle Shanahan is a system quarterback.
Okay.
But going on to my number 7, sorry to cut you off, Garrett.
There you go.
Is Jalen Hurts as well. So I'll sum it up like this: 1, 2, 3, 4 were pretty much easy. 5, 6, 7 were a debate. I think you can put 5, 6, 7 for my list in any order, and I would agree with it. Jalen Hurts just fell underneath the other two because he doesn't pass as well as these other two that I'm going to mention later on. But Jalen Hurts is very much well up there. Looks like a potential Super Bowl team. And, I put Jalen Hurts number 7.
All right. So my number 7 quarterback, it's another rookie, Bo Nix.
Wait,
Are you serious?
Yeah, Bo Nix.
That's
Wow.
great. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So Ben just did this season.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, back to Bo Nix though. He struggled in his first few games though, but he's proven a lot of people wrong though. I mean, coming into the season though, in this draft class though, I mean, obviously for offensive rookie of the year, a lot of people were saying Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels though, but I wasn't sleeping on Bo Nix though, because he has the ability to throw the ball down the field, and that was one of his big things coming out of Oregon. Mm-hmm. But he has done an outstanding job leading this Broncos squad though, under the leadership of Sean Payton though. I mean, to go from Russell Wilson to a really talented quarterback like Bo Nix though, everything seems to be really flowing well.
Whoa!
Wow. Okay.
Josh may
Wait a
kill
minute.
you for that one.
Wait a minute.
Kill you for that one.
Look, he's talking about himself, guys. He's allowed to have confidence in himself. I'm glad to see him confident for once talking about something. Keep talking.
But no disrespect to Russell Wilson. I mean, he's obviously done an outstanding job in Pittsburgh though. But
future gold jacket wearing quarterback, no big deal.
Just to turn
talent though.
But just to turn that franchise around under Bo Nix though is absolutely incredible to me. But yeah, he definitely has a chance to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. It would absolutely not surprise me. But overall though, great team with a great defense. They're going to do some damage in the postseason.
I was just being sarcastic when I said that, but here we are. Garrett, what you got?
I wouldn't go so far as to say that Bo Nix has saved the franchise so much as saved this season. I just want to see more from him. But my number 7 is a guy that I think is very similar to Matthew Stafford, and I have Justin Herbert at number 7.
Okay.
I think he's a very good pocket passer. He has an absolute cannon for an arm, competing with Josh Allen probably for who can throw the ball the furthest. Mm-hmm. I hope, please, dear God, I hope he does not become Phillip Rivers Jr. in that franchise. Please get him a Super Bowl ring. That's all I want. And I do think he will get one eventually once Jim Harbaugh gets him the weapons. And I think they're definitely on the right track to that.
I'm about to say he's closer to a Super Bowl than another quarterback that we love, but hey.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later. But one thing I do want to add with Justin Herbert, I forgot to mention, 1 interception on the year. And I know he hasn't been he just hasn't had to put the team on his back like he did in past years. But I think he's absolutely a Josh Allen. Of course, Josh Allen's had a pretty good year with the interceptions as well. But Justin Herbert, I feel like, is a Josh Allen, but with a more higher IQ, I guess. I hate to say it that way, but
call me crazy, but right now I don't think there's a true wide receiver 1 in the Chargers organization right
You're
now.
not crazy at all.
You're not crazy at all.
I think after Keenan Allen left, they tried to fill that void and they really didn't. Like Quentin Johnston is kind of there. Ladd McConkey is starting to get there.
I'm gonna say
but
no. It's
really
McConkey,
not.
right?
I'll say
McConkey's their number 1, and it's not number 1.
Yeah, McConkey will likely end up being their number 1 unless they bring somebody in.
T. I'm putting it in the universe. It's going to be T. Higgins. It's going to be T. Higgins.
Would not be surprising one bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
They're going to bring someone in. So
moving on to number 6, I have Baker Mayfield at that slot. I'm very high on him. He is
so high.
He's had one of the best QBRs this year. I mean, he's looked overall the best passer rating.
He just needed a home.
He's kept this team afloat throughout, and he's able to do it without his 2 best weapons. I absolutely like Baker Mayfield. I think he is still slept on to this day, especially by the reaction Josh had. But I understand it. didn't necessarily go with the last seasons on Baker. The last season, though, was great. The seasons before that, obviously, he was trying to find a home.
I mean, he still made the Browns to the playoffs. So, I mean, so it's not like he was bad in Cleveland. Like, that's what I'm saying. Oh, man, Cleveland's going to Cleveland. It's so great.
Yeah. I think Baker Mayfield with the healthy team next year, which may be hard with Godwin and Evans aging. I think they could win the NFC South and make a deep run potentially.
All right, for number 6 for me, 5 and 6, I keep going back and forth. I can't figure out which way to go.
Flip a coin.
No, so I'm gonna settle on this. I'm gonna go Jared Goff as my number 6 quarterback.
Okay.
What he's doing this year is absolutely impressive. But he's even done it. I mean, he took the Rams to the Super Bowl, if I remember correctly. My brain's not completely fried there. He's the 8th most passing yards since 2020, 7th most touchdowns. Interceptions are high, though. He does get picked off quite a bit, and he has these crazy games where he'll be perfect and he'll be perfect and he'll be So I would put Jared Goff as my number 6, and he could be debating number 5 depending what day it was, because he was number 5 last night. Now he's number 6.
Yep. I don't know if you guys are going to think I'm crazy for this one, but my number 6 player is Patrick Mahomes.
Okay, come on.
Here we go.
I mean, it's definitely very this season based, but going off the basis that you're only really talking about this season, then
Yeah, I mean, despite a great start for Kansas City, though, I mean, starting out the year undefeated, going 9-0, Mahomes, he just hasn't really lived up to MVP expectations, though. I mean, we've seen him in games, though, where he's turned the ball over, mistakes on his part, though.
He has the most interceptions tied with
Josh Allen.
Not Josh Allen.
I think he has 11, right?
He has 11. I forget who the other one is. Josh Allen only has 5 this year.
Yeah, no.
But if the Chiefs...
Most years you're right, though. Sorry, Ben.
No, you're good. But if the Chiefs have any chance of three-peating, though, Mahomes, in my opinion, needs to clean up these mistakes, because this is something we normally don't see out of Patrick Mahomes, especially with 11 interceptions on the season. It just didn't really seem like him, though. But I feel like if they can turn that around, Chiefs, they're going to be fine.
I'm just going to have the brain matter of you are clearly going off this year, and you're not saying Patrick Mahomes is the 6th best quarterback, because there is not 5 players in the game of NFL better than Patrick Mahomes right now. When the man is money, he's the best in the game, and it's not even close. I don't care if I'm spoiling my number 1. It was the most obvious thing, but I understand where you're coming from and where your conversation is going. But yes, no, that's a very bad take. Anyway, go ahead, Garrett.
Josh, I agree with you. My number 6 pick is Jared Goff. He did get the Rams to that Super Bowl in 2018, and then proceeded to make it the most boring Super Bowl I've ever watched, to the point where in the second half I was playing Black Ops 2. But that being said, Jared Goff is on an absolute tear this year with Dan Campbell. He fits really well in that system, and this is the thing. I don't think Jared Goff is a system. I think Jalen Hurts is more of a systems quarterback than Jared Goff is. I think Jared Goff has a bit more creativity in where he dumps the ball off to. And I think this year specifically, he's playing out of his shoes, minus that Houston Texans game. That was just a bad game. We'll scrap that. But I think he can get the Lions to the Super Bowl this year.
I will say he's more Phillip Rivers than Justin Herbert, in my opinion.
As of right now, yes. As of right now, but I don't think it'll stay that way.
Number 5.
Moving on to number 5, and I will say, fellas, we have about a minute per number from here on out, so we might want to, unfortunately, clean it up a little bit. I have Jared Goff at number 5. What he has done this season has been impressive. What he did last season was impressive. This season, probably a little more impressive, but I think he's absolutely a top 5 quarterback. And if you look back at his time with the Rams, before all the injuries, then kind of him and McVay just not seeing eye to eye on some stuff, I think he was absolutely a great quarterback, and I think he has earned this spot based on just the completion percentage almost alone.
For me, is Justin Herbert. Like I said, I think Goff, Herbert are one AB when you talk about this number. I'll take Herbert over Goff this time around, because he has done more with less, and if he's healthy, we will finally see a MVP, and he gets a weapon or two. He will become a MVP candidate. So give me Herbert at 5.
All right, my number 5 quarterback is Josh Allen. I mean, he's off to the best start of his career, and
but only the 5th best apparently in the league.
But he's got that offense rolling really well. But yeah, I got Josh Allen at number 5.
All right.
I got it here 4, 3, 2, 1.
I can't. Joe Burrow's number 1. I already know that. Garrett, what do you got?
This is definitely going to be rose-tinted glasses, but I have Aaron Rodgers at number 5. I understand. I understand that he has been awful
not
the
on any of
past.
my list.
I understand he's been awful this season with the Jets, but just the quarterback play that he had for Green Bay when he was in his prime with Green Bay, he was the absolute model of consistency. When in the 2010s were Green Bay not in the playoffs with him at quarterback? He was the model of consistency.
Yeah, no, you're right. I just didn't put him on there because he didn't play it all last year, and he's played like crap this year. So
I'm going to say,
No,
he
I
hasn't made
understand.
my list either.
Yeah.
He was on that borderline of 13, 14, 15,
No,
16.
I understand, but I think he was just too dominant in his prime to
Yeah,
leave
yeah.
him off this list.
No, that's fair. Moving on to number 4. That's where I have Patrick Mahomes. I don't think that's crazy. I don't
Keep
think
going,
that's crazy.
keep going.
Definitely the best quarterback in the league throughout the last couple of years, and he probably, if he just shows up, is the best quarterback again. But statistically wise, I just cannot put him above Burrow, Allen, and Lamar. That's my top 3. I think that's a fair top 3, and yeah, give me Mahomes at number 4.
Yeah,
He's been a level below them this season.
Patrick Mahomes is by far the best quarterback on the planet. It's
doing
not
360s
close.
on it.
It's not close. You know what? Call me Chris Collinsworth. I don't care.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Absolutely.
Anyway, my number 4 is the 2-time MVP, potentially number 3, Lamar Jackson. I know that's a little bit of a hot take as well, having
really
him number
weird how this all
3,
shaped up.
or having him number 4, but his passing trails the other 3 guys behind, and he has also not been able to do what the other 3 guys have done, and that's got to, I believe, the AFC Championship game, if I remember
That's
correctly.
as far as he's gotten.
So last time I checked, that's how a lot of things are judged in the NFL when it comes to the quarterback position. So maybe Lamar number 4.
Yeah, for my number 4 it's Jalen Hurts. I feel like this year he's been obviously one of the best quarterbacks. He has great run game. He has the ability to extend plays in the passing games, and overall though, just a great team around him. So give me Jalen Hurts at number 4.
Garrett?
Yeah, my number 4 pick is going to be Josh Allen. I really like the pace that he's on right now. He's at an all-time high right now, in my opinion. This is probably one of the best years he's had at quarterback. It's going to be interesting to see what he does in the AFC moving forward and for those Buffalo Bills. But right now, he's in the driver's seat in that Bills QB position, and I'm excited to see what the future holds.
All right. At number 3, I have Joe Burrow. And the only thing holding Joe Burrow back from any higher for me is the team's success. I hold that very highly, and he has not had that this year. He was out last year for most of the year. We did see that 2 to 3 game stretch where he looked really good. So based on not playing much last year, obviously having a historic year this year, but the team success is also very important. I understand that's not Burrow's fault, but it will hold him back here for me.
I feel like this is the first time in my life, in a long time, that I'm wearing orange colored glasses. I also have Joe Burrow number 3. He probably should be below Lamar at 4, but I do have him at number 3. He's an MVP candidate. He should be an MVP candidate if his team wasn't, just garbage all around else.
Yep.
Joe is special. Joe is Drew Brees-esque. We are wasting his career away. Joe Burrow is number 3.
Yeah, Joe Burrow is my number 3 quarterback on this list. I mean, he's obviously an MVP caliber quarterback this year. He leads the league in passing yards. But if only the defense would give him a good team to be around.
I'm trying to figure out who your 2 and 1 is in my head. Go
I
ahead,
don't
Garrett.
think you said Lamar yet.
No, I think Lamar's going to be one of them. But I think it's interesting. We all have Joe Burrow at number 3. All across the board, we have Joe Burrow at 3. I do think it's interesting your reasoning, Colton, for keeping him at number 3 instead of bumping him higher, because I think we did our tier list. I viewed it more as individual performance as opposed to team success. That's why I have Jalen Hurts ranked a bit lower and why I have Joe Burrow ranked as high as I do. But yeah, Joe Burrow is an incredible player independently, separate from the Bengals, obviously this season being a wash of that. But he's playing out of his shoes. He's playing MVP level quarterback. It's just his team around him is not supplanting him. So that's why I have him at 3. But I definitely think he's absolutely one of the top 3 quarterbacks in this league.
I think it was a combination of not playing last season as well, kind of put him down, because that was also Herbert would probably be top 5 if not for the year he had last year. So I weighed that in as well.
Gotcha.
At number 2, I have Josh Allen. I think he is doing it on both. He can pass the ball very well. He's been very smart with the ball. He's had a couple hiccups the last couple weeks, but he started out the season playing very great with the ball, very smart, and he is the MVP favorite if you ask me. And yeah, that's my number 2.
Josh Allen's number 2 for me as well. I honestly don't think it's a debate anymore. What he's done this year is taking him to another level because he's doing one thing that Joe's not right now, and he's winning. And when it comes to the quarterback position, that matters.
All right, my number 2 quarterback is Jared Goff. I mean, obviously, he's done an outstanding job this year leading.
Sorry, dude, my mouth dropped. I couldn't hide my surprise.
Anyway, but he's doing an outstanding job leading this offense. So, I mean, when you look at that offense as a whole, though, dude, it is absolutely insane. I mean, that receiving core is absolutely filthy. The running game is filthy, and he's playing really, really well to an MVP level. But outside of that Houston game, though, this guy, he's an elite quarterback for sure.
Garrett?
Really quickly, I'm just going to go. My number 2 is Lamar Jackson. I just think he's Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, but he's faster and he gets more yards on the ground. So that's why I have him at number 2. And I think eventually he will get this Ravens team a Super Bowl.
That is fair. I would argue his holdbacks on the passing game would put him below for me.
Yes, but I think he's gotten better.
I do have Lamar as my number 1 quarterback in the NFL. So that's pretty much just based off of just overall team success. He was the MVP last year. He is looking like, he's not necessarily MVP this year. I said Josh Allen is my MVP favorite, but he's right there in the running for it as well. And I'm Lamar's biggest hater. I'll say it right now. I didn't hold playoff contention as much as I should have. If I were to do playoff, I would agree with Josh there. For some reason, that just didn't really come into mind that much. But outside of that, I mean, when you compare him and Josh Allen, they have about the same success. So it's really, I think any of those top 4, I do not have Jared Goff in that top 4, but Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, and Lamar, you can really order them any way you want, and it's really based on personal preference. But yeah, give me Lamar as the best QB in the league right now.
Back-to-back Super Bowl champion. Best quarterback on the planet is Patrick Mahomes.
15th best quarterback this season.
He's still the best quarterback on the planet. Best quarterback on the planet.
All right, just like you, Colton, my number 1 quarterback is indeed Lamar Jackson, though. I mean, just looking at the team as a whole, though, I mean, they're obviously complete on offense, especially with their run game, though, with Jackson and Derrick Henry, though, and they have great wide receiver cores, though, so they're obviously in great shape to possibly make it to New Orleans.
Yeah, I agree with you, Josh. 3 Super Bowls in 5 years is tough to beat. Patrick Mahomes is your number 1 quarterback in the NFL, regardless of how he's playing this year, because you know he's just going to find a way. Okay,
finds a way. Still maybe top 10 if he finds a way. So I mean,
that's fair. You can argue that.
I'm just saying, on this season alone, he hasn't looked that great, and it hasn't.
I'll agree.
It's not even like, oh, he doesn't have people around him. He's thrown 11 interceptions. Is that on the receiver's fault? No, that's Patrick Mahomes' decision making.
Outside the top 5.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just putting weight.
Josh is disagreeing with me.
I'm not disagreeing with Colton. I'm just putting more weight on Super Bowls.
I will say this: since 2020, just to pull up the stats, he's played the 2nd most games, trailing only Josh Allen. He has the 8th best QB passing percentage, completion percentage. Sorry, 1st in yards, 1st in touchdowns. However, he is also leading the NFL in interceptions since 2020, and he's third in QB ratings.
Taking Josh Allen.
Him and Josh Allen are tied.
No one. Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not.
I think the 1-2 debate is getting closer than 2 and 3.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree.
I think Josh Allen's getting up in the Patrick Mahomes debate, but he needs to do something.
Yeah.
It's like every quarterback.
Yeah.
January matters.
Yeah.
Got to beat him in January.
Yep.
Yeah. It'll be interesting how that all plays out. But yeah, that was the list. I thought the bottom would be the more argument, but when we got to the top, that's when the argument started. So very interesting to see that all play out. I would love to do something like this again, maybe with a wide receiver, maybe an all-time QB's list. Yeah, Gary, we already had that argument now, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. We did indeed.
We already had that argument, so maybe not wide receiver, but all-time QB's list. I can see Josh ripping somebody's head off. But anyways, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you all for listening. Be sure to leave a like, hit the subscribe button. We're looking to get to 50 subscribers, then we will give away a $50 Fanatics gift card. If we're already past that 50 and we haven't given away, feel free to still subscribe. We'll still enter you as long as we haven't given it away yet. But thank you all for coming.
Also, cut you off on that. I'm making the executive decision. No matter what happens, I guess graduation is the 14th, right?
Correct.
December 14th. So that Tuesday beforehand, as long as we do a show we'll do the giveaway that day, no matter what.
No matter what.
Okay.
Yeah, no matter what. If we
Completely fair.
don't have the 50, enough people have watched us, supported us throughout the last year, basically, of doing this. And I've had people reach out to me joking around, like, "Where's your podcast? Where's your podcast?" So those people who subscribe to us, we will give them a giveaway, and I'll figure out how to do that.
All right, that sounds good.
All right.
I agree with that executive decision, no doubt. But be sure to follow us on Twitter at NorrisBWPod. Follow us along on Apple and Spotify podcasts, so you don't have to necessarily watch us and see our ugly mugs every day. And yeah, that's all I got. Thank you, Garrett, for all you do in the Director's Chair. Thank you, Bill and NK Media Services, for all that you do. Thank you, co-hosts, for coming on the show, Josh and Ben. What a fun episode. We'll see you all in the next one. Peace.